On paper, Arsenal are having a great season, but we know that when you look at the last 3 Premier League games, there are some old habits and frustrations from previous seasons, and it's making Arsenal fans, including myself, quite nervous. But Mikel Arteta spoke to not just the media, but I think to the fans around the world, and sent a great message when he said this, that the reaction to Sunday's defeat has been excellent, that we took a moment to bring the temperature down, to pause, reflect, and ask 2 questions. One is, how do we feel, and how do I feel myself? And then, how do we want to live the next 4 months? It was so encouraging and beautiful. We have earned the right to be in a great position in full competitions, and in the next 4 months, we're going to live and play with enjoyment, with a lot of courage, and with the conviction that we're going to win it. This is going to be the mindset, and we're going to put the energy. I'm just hoping that everybody that's related to this club, especially our supporters, jump on that boat, because this is the way that we're going to live the next 4 months. I think it's a great quote from Mikel Arteta, and it's a great answer, and it's a great message to send to the fans. And it got me going a little bit. I'm thinking, okay, great. Like, yeah, we are in a great position across all 4 competitions. We have had a massive blip in terms of 3 Premier League games and are still 4 points clear. All right, let's attack the season. But I think that quote plays more to the emotion. It plays more to the feeling. There are still some statistical things, some data-driven things, some tactical things that need addressing from an Arsenal perspective. And I do worry about whether that is something that Mikel Arteta is looking at. I'm sure he is, but I do think that that can't be ignored, and it can't just be an emotional response to what's been going on. We need to see some changes in the team too. Before we talk about football, which of course matters to us all, there can be bigger things in life, and I think very few things come before looking after yourself. And that's why I want to tell you about our paid partnership with BetterHelp. 2025 for me was about getting physically healthier, and while that still matters in 2026, I'm prioritising my mental health, something that Sharoy and I have spoken a lot about on the Goonerverse podcast when we returned for it in August of 2025. I'm focusing on making small, sustainable changes that I know I can implement on a regular basis, rather than trying to reinvent myself in one go and getting frustrated when I fall at the early hurdles and I look back thinking I tried to take on too much in one go. This is exactly what therapy does. It's not a quick fix, but it's a steady habit that helps you understand yourself, grow, and build lasting support for your well-being. BetterHelp will match you with a therapist based on your preferences, their own clinical experience, and over a decade of matching expertise. And if the therapist is not right for you, you can easily switch to another anytime at no extra cost. I appreciate it can be a big thing to take on, but if you've got the scope to do it, I couldn't recommend it more, whether it's something you feel you need or you feel it's just good practice for maintaining a healthy mind. Click this link, which you can find in the description below, to get 10% off your first month of therapy. And trust me, it really is the small steps that can make such a big difference. Now back to it. I think if you're an Arsenal fan these last few weeks, you'll have been pulled from side to side. Some media outlets are telling you that we've got to win the treble. Others are telling you that if we do win the league, we'll be the worst to ever do it. That's what Paul Scholes said on his podcast. He said if Arsenal win the league, this could be the worst team to win the Premier League. And it's just so frustrating when you hear things like this. I mean, I'm sure there's a degree of rage bait. I'm sure that to a degree is his opinion. And some people will say, okay, cool. I mean, to be fair, Arsenal aren't the most inspiring in terms of the football they play, and they might not be the biggest entertainers to have ever done it. Look, let's just win the league, because I'll tell you what, if we win it, we will not care what people are saying. We will not care for 1 second how we did it, as long as we sit top after 38 games. But let's also apply some context. Let's also acknowledge that it's never a linear path to the title, that every team goes through their own journey. And to be fair, we've had some blips, but so has every other team, or most other teams that have gone on to win the title. Let's have a little look at 4 league tables next to each other. We've got the 98-99 league table after 23 games and 38. We've got the current league table, which of course sits at 23 games. And we've got the 22-23 season after 23 games. Let's start at the top. We look at 98-99. Manchester United, who won the treble, did it on 79 points. 1 point above Arsenal, interestingly. But 79 points is an incredibly low tally. But they went on to win the trebles. They're considered one of the greats. They're considered one of the great sides, despite dropping points in 16 games out of 38. That's not massively off half. It's not. 19 is the halfway point, and they've dropped points in 16 games. but they won the treble and no one doubts the greatness of that side. I imagine to be competitive in all those other competitions, you to a degree lose something in the league, and it didn't cost them actually winning it in the end. Then you look at the 98-99 side after 23 games. They were on 44 points. The current Arsenal side after 23 games are on 50 points. And if you look at in 22-23, the Man City treble winners were second to Arsenal on 51 points, having also lost 4 games by this point in the season, one more than Arsenal have lost now, but have a point more as well. So the point is, while people might be complaining about Arsenal and the drop points, which I have done, I might be complaining about the goals scored and the football and all that. The point is we're competing on all 4 fronts, and we're not, from a historical perspective, putting up numbers that are miles off. If anything, we're actually kind of matching what some of the greats have done. So this idea that Arsenal must be judged right now for what they've done in the last month, when September, October, November, the football is extremely exciting, and we've got 4 more months to play, I think it's way too early for calls like they could be the worst side to ever win it, when history and data suggests that there's nothing in our numbers that suggests that we can't do something really, really special despite the football we are playing. And then when you look at the rest of the league, and I think this is really important, I keep preaching that, sure, the very, very best sides in the league might not be as exciting. The league in general might not be playing the best football. But when you look at the quality of players and managers across the rest of the Premier League, it's extraordinary. I've got one player from a handful of sides that are outside the big 6. You've got Morgan Rogers, Anderson, Schade, Guimaraes, Grealish, Xhaka, Van Hecke, Evan Nilsson, Wharton, Gibbs-White, Bowen. You've got England internationals in there. You've got league winners in there. You've got players that have come from Porto, players that have come from top sides like Leon and Guimaraes, who was wanted by loads of sides. Rogers, who is valued at 100 million, has been looked at by the likes of Liverpool and others. These are top players, and I've just picked one. Grealish came from Man City. These are players that are scattered across the Premier League and are happy to play at those clubs, and are playing under very good managers, and are playing for sides that can all be aspiring for things like European football, top half finishes, who are aspiring to beat the top sides when they play at home, who might be thinking there's a scout when they travel away, because they've got the quality to do it. So while Arsenal, again, might not be playing the best football at the moment, and maybe not playing the best football amongst other previous league leaders, we are doing it in an era where the Premier League isn't as exciting, maybe partly down to us, but certainly isn't across the board in terms of the football that's being played, and against sides that have tremendous quality. So I just wanted to talk about that. I want to just dispel this idea that we could be the worst champions to ever do it. Firstly, let's win it, and then we can worry about that conversation. And secondly, I promise you, when we do, we will not care what is being said. We fundamentally won't. But for all I've said there and all the defending of the team, it doesn't mean we don't have a problem. We're on course for 69 goals at the moment. And I've shown you this before, but here are the Premier League champions that have won it scoring less than 70 goals, and there's very few. United in 92-93, Arsenal in 97-98, United again in 08-09, which is incredible when you think of the players they had, like Rooney, Tevez, Ronaldo, and the Leicester side in 15-16. When you look at that, it does tell you that statistically, you need more goals really to win the title. It's very, very rare across however 30 plus seasons of Premier League football. It is very, very rare that you win the title scoring less than 70 goals. And that's currently what Arsenal are on course for. Now, I tweeted something because I want to know how we can get the most out of this team in terms of goals. And I think a big part of it is platforming. So I tweeted this and it had a lot of reaction. A lot of people, to be fair, actually said they agreed with me. I wondered whether we're profiling wrong. And I talked about Timber being in build-up, not in the pockets. I talked about Rice being right 8, not left 8. I talked about Marino, Ødegaard, Eze, Saka, Trossard, Martinelli. Hit the pause button if you want to read this in more detail. But I talked about them ultimately being put in the wrong positions on the pitch for me. Now, again, I have to say this. I always feel like I have to say this. Mikel Arteta, I'm sure, knows much more about the areas of the pitch that these players should be in. I'm sure he understands that the bigger picture in terms of off the ball as well as on the ball, in terms of playing to their strengths, where they're comfortable, in terms of combination between players. I am sure that he, in many ways, has a better understanding. In fact, probably in all ways, has a better understanding of this than I do. But in my opinion, and it seems to be an opinion shared by a lot of fans, I think there are players who are largely playing in areas of the pitch that they're not massively comfortable with, or certainly that are maximising their best skills. Let's take it to the tactical pad and I'll show you what I mean. So here's an 11, and as you can see, I've doubled up Marino with Rice, Eze with Ødegaard, Timber with White, and Trossard with Martinelli. Here's an 11 of Arsenal players, and I'm just going to play it across. I want to show you where I think these players naturally end up on the pitch in the current system. You can see that you've got Zubimendi tends to drop in to build up, with Gabriel and Saliba splitting. That pulls Saliba and Gabriel wide and build up. We know Calafiori inverts, sometimes gets higher, sometimes inverts alongside the 6. We know that Rice and Marino float between being deeper and build up and going really high into the pockets. We know that Ødegaard and Eze have to pull wide when they're in that 10 space as well. We know that Saka, Trossard and Martinelli will be really, really wide. Gyökeres will drop into build up, and Timber and White will go and pick up a space in the pockets, really, really high, often being one of the more advanced players on the pitch. Now, let me just move this along and show you something else. This is where I think those exact same players, and I've split a few of them as you can see, this is where I think those exact same players actually do their best work. In build-up, I like Saliba central. I like him being at the heart because he's really good spreading the ball from left to right. He's got a really good range of pass. He can carry forward as well, with Timber and Gabriel either side in build-up. I want Zubimendi more in the middle of the pitch to receive, almost in the block as opposed to passing into it. And I want Rice and Marino, again, somewhat deeper, with Ødegaard dropping deeper as an 8 rather than as a 10. Then those higher areas, I want our fullbacks, Calafiori and White, on the overlap, on the outside moving forward, and I think the likes of Eze and Saka are better more central, receiving the ball to feet, turning players, making things happen, running at people, being creative. But interestingly, Trossard and Martinelli I've put a little bit higher up than Eze, because for me, they're nearer inside forwards. They're the kind of players I want, not as creators, getting the ball, making things happen, but actually players who are making runs and beyond, so that they simply take a touch and get shots off goal and are in areas of the pitch where they can get GA much more easily rather than out in the touchline. And Gyökeres, same, not so much with Jesus, but probably the same with Havertz. I want Gyökeres more stretching the pitch and getting in beyond, with these other pocket players getting in and around and making things happen, as opposed to him being the link-up man himself. So, how can we get to this? Well, there's a few ways that Arsenal can ultimately profile these players a little bit better and maybe find more goals in the team. Let's take White, Ødegaard, Gyökeres and Martinelli out, and let's reshuffle to this. Now, this isn't inventing anything new. Arsenal's 4-2 or 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-4, however you want to look at it, is something Arsenal had done before. They did it in the 23-24 season. It worked really, really well. But this kind of shape, the system, also worked against Tottenham, against Bayern Munich, a really, really aggressive 4-4-2 press. Eze and Marino alternating, not Eze in the 10 or Marino in the 10 or Marino up front, but two players alternating from those positions almost as dual 10s and allowing Trossard and Saka to get nearer to them too, with Calafiori and Timber supporting in underlapping or overlapping runs. I felt there was a lot of balance to that. But it's not actually the system I love the most. Let's make some changes. Let's bring Ødegaard, White and Gyökeres in, and let's pull out Trossard, Marino and Timber. Now, again, you can have the exact same system, but this time with Ødegaard and Gyökeres. This mirrors probably more what we did in 23-24, moving Eze to the left. But I'd love to see something like this. Gabriel and Saliba in build-up, Rice, Zubimendi and Ødegaard as the 3, so Ødegaard is dropping into build-up, able to get on the ball without, negating a higher pocket position that he could be creating from, getting on the ball in, with Saka and Eze tucking in nearer to Gyökeres and Calafiori and White on the overlap. I even wouldn't mind seeing this. Rice and Ødegaard switching, because I think Rice is a better, if you're going to make those channel runs, if you're going to have good delivery into the box, do it on your right foot, where you've proved you're really, really good at whipping that ball into the box. And Ødegaard as well can link up on the left-hand side, could be really creative with the left foot, play some of his better passes when he's in that left 8 position. Or you could even do this. Have Rice simply at the base, who can actually drop into the back 3 if he needs to, with Zubimendi and Ødegaard in build-up, and Zubimendi again on his right foot, playing the kind of passes he can from the areas on his stronger foot that he might feel a little bit more comfortable in. You could then even swap Ødegaard and Zubimendi one more time if you wanted to get Zubimendi in the areas he played more in against Sociedad, or when he was playing for Sociedad, should I say. So those are just some solutions, people. Look, do I think Arteta's going to do any of this? Maybe at times in-game, but I'm not sure it's going to be something we see regularly. I think it involves him pulling Trossard out the team, who's been one of our best players this season. It means moving Eze out to the left, which he's done very reluctantly. It also means I don't know, changing what's kind of worked off the ball, because when you're moving something like this in possession, you are making changes to how you press and your shape off the ball and rest defense and all that. But I just think that they're not even massive changes. One of those ideas I mentioned is going back to what we did earlier in the season. And then these other changes, well, we've seen the fullbacks get high and wide sometimes. So I just want to see more of it so we can free up Eze and Saka. I don't think these are massive, massive steps away from what Arteta has done at times, or has done maybe more holistically with Arsenal when he's building the team and building the system and building the way we're going to play through teams. I just think ultimately there's a few tweaks we can make that profile the players a bit better and get them into the areas of the pitch where they play their best football and can be the most effective and play more to their skill sets. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, whether you agree. Would these tweaks fix Arsenal's attack? Let me know your thoughts. And do you think Arsenal are going to play these next 4 months, as Arteta said, with the freedom, with the conviction, and are they going to go and just show what they're about and enjoy what is a big 4 months for Arsenal? I hope so, because you've got to enjoy the journey as much as getting there and actually getting your hands on the trophy. Arsenal are good enough to win multiple trophies this season. I really, really believe it. But we need to express ourselves and show everyone we belong. Let me know if your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know if you agree with everything I said in this video. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon.